Okay, yesterday we started out and we defined the words power and we defined the words base. And we were talking about, we did the exponent, so we know what an exponent is. And I told you we had one word left that we wanted to make sure that we got the definition of, and that was the definition of perfect squares. And we started out talking about the fact that a perfect square is the square of a whole number, okay? A perfect square is the square of a whole number. And that's really key that you remember. We're only talking about the squares of whole numbers, okay? What do we mean if we say square it? Because that could be an additional fact. What do we mean when we say to square something? Amelia, what are you thinking, babe? Huh? Not sure? I know you had it because I can see it in your brain. What do you think? What is the square? What do we mean when we're talking we're going to square a whole number? Remember yesterday I had on the board on those practices, we had one that said this. Remember that, Amelia? Multiply it by itself, right. To square, multiply by itself. Okay? That's what we're talking about. So if we're talking about a whole number, okay, and if we look at that right there, and I could make sure that I label it this way, that's a perfect example, right? 8 squared. Yes, ma'am?
I forgot my everyday folder in the classroom.
You need to go get it, and it will be a Q, okay? Okay. What do we mean? What is the product of 8 squared? What's its product?
8 times 8.
8 times 8, or what's 8 times 8? What is 8 times 8, Keegan? Kagan? 64. So 64 is a perfect square. Is 9 a perfect square? What number multiplied by itself gives you 9? What number? Who said it over here? What is it, Bub? 3. Because 3 times 3 is 9. So 9 is a perfect square. I'll make a note here. It is a perfect square. Okay? 64, perfect square. Is the number 1 a perfect square? Well, technically, yes. What about the number 2? Is the number 2 a perfect square? No. So a non-example would be 2. 2 is not a perfect square. Because I don't multiply a whole number by itself to get 2. What about the number, this would be a really good thing and we might notice something. The number 2 is not. Is the number 3 a perfect square? No. What about the number 4?
Yes.
Times 2.
So 3 is not. What about the number 5? No. Is 6 a perfect square?
Yes.
No. Okay, so that tells me when I do this, these are all non-examples, and it tells me it could be a non-example. It's a perfect square isn't always, it's not always even. Okay, because these two even numbers are not perfect squares. It's not always prime either. because 6 isn't a prime number, so that doesn't play into it at all. Okay? Perfect square is only it's the product of a whole number times itself. Okay? Does that make sense? The product of a whole number times itself equals the perfect square. Okay? Anything else that you want to put there to help you? Are you good? All right, then we're going to move on. Okay, so take a look. This is basically what we've been talking about. Okay? We talked about power, base, and exponent. Here we see it as an example altogether. Okay? Just so we know again. Now, the power to the 3 to the exponent of 4 doesn't say 3 times 4. It says 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? Looking at some words that we use, and you will hear these being used. 3 squared, we call this 3 squared or 3 to the second power. This one here, 3 to the third, we'll call it 3 cubed or 3 to the third. You'll hear it both ways. And 3 to the fourth, you'll only hear it as 3 to the fourth. Okay? We don't have another way of saying that. Or 3 to the fifth or 3 to the sixth. Only on the squares and the cubes do you hear it differently. And you will hear me, usually you'll hear me refer to it as squared or cubed. Okay? Cubed means to the third time. 3 times. Okay? Let's see what we can do. Here, it doesn't want us to solve it. It wants us to write this 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 as a write each product as a power. So it doesn't want me to give it the answer. It just wants me to write it as a power. Okay? Isaiah.
5.
What do you mean 5? Give me more.
Power.
Okay, and so how do I write this?
So 4 to the 5th power.
There you go. 4 to the 5th power. That's what it's asking for. Everybody do B. Everybody write B on their paper, on your own. Let's see if you got this. I want the library book put away. I don't want to see it out. Okay. Faith, what is B?
12 to the 3rd power.
Good job, 12 to the 3rd. You got your whiteboards, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
You might be going to get them out, because that's how I'm going to know if we're getting it and we can keep going. You guys do put your stuff in that desk when you come in. That's kind of cool. Nothing wrong with that. Number 1. Write the product as a power on your whiteboard for me. Don't let the people next to you see it. I want to know if everybody knows how to do it, because we can go ahead and keep moving, and if we're all getting it, then we'll move on. We'll get through this, and you'll have time to do your work. Okay? No, put it in the top drawer. Yes, ma'am. The only time you use the other one is if you're gone and you're coming in. Okay? All right. Everybody have it written down? Come on. Again, being able to do it quickly. Showdown. What? Okay. Only thing is, I can't see the paper. That's why I gave you guys whiteboards. This should be written as 6 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the 6th power. 6 to the 6th. Nice job. Do number 2. Same thing. Quickly. ready for showdown? At least it's big enough now I can see it, okay? Showdown. Today I'm taking this paper. Tomorrow I'll send you back for those whiteboards. 15 to the 4th, I agree.
The one time I don't remember.
Okay? Tomorrow I'll make you go back and get them and I will give you the cube. Come prepared. We're moving on. We already talked about this a little bit. Now we're going to find the value of the power. So the value of A says the product of 7 times 7. That's how this is what I would call expanded form. Okay, I expand out that power. And 7 times 7 equals what?
15.
7 times 7 equals what, Connor?
No, I was thinking 7 plus 7.
7 times 7 equals what, Callie?
49.
49. I absolutely agree. Okay? So somebody tell me how to expand B. I want it in expanded form. Give me the expanded form, David.
5 times 5.
He's absolutely correct. Did you pick up your calculators on the way in?
Yes.
Okay, on your homework, this is showing me what to do. Okay? Then you have a calculator. You have to write this on the homework first. Then use your calculator to figure it out. Plug that into your calculator. 5 times 5 times 5. Because I already know what it is. But I want to know if you do. This shows your work. Shows work. Then you may use the calculator to calculate it. And your final answer is, raise your hand, final answer. Kinsey, say it louder.
125.
I agree, 125. Good. Did everybody get 125?
Yeah.
All right. Little reminder, perfect square. Now, which one of these two, A or B, has an answer that is a perfect square? Which one's answer is a perfect square?
49.
Only one of them, and raise your hand. We don't blurt. Malia,
49.
49. Good. 49 is a perfect square. Good, because you're going to need to know that. You're going to need to know how to figure it out, okay? Are we good? In fist to 5, understanding level right now. 5's the best, or it's anywhere down. It's fine. Fist to 5, okay. I'm seeing 4s and 5s mostly. That tells me I can move on.
Let's go.
All right. Is the number 64 a perfect square? So you have to think of the factors of 64. And is there a number times itself that equals 64? Raise your hand. That one's Maddie. That one's Jessie. Macy.
So it's Z.
Zoe.
Yes. 8.
8. Because 8 times 8 equals 64. So is this a perfect square? The word would be
Yes.
yes. What about the number 20? Is 20 a perfect square? Think about it. Think about it. You can think of the factors is one way to do it. Figuring out the factors of 20. What do you think, Miss Melissa?
No.
No. She says no. How many of you agree with Melissa? Raise your hand if you agree with her. Okay? Put your hands down. Okay? There's another way. We thought of the factors, right? But I could also think of this of the whole numbers. So what I'm saying is I could say 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9. I could do it this way. Hooked up. 3 exotic straw, you know better than that. Your brain's thinking it. Okay, so 20's in between there, isn't it? There's no whole number that's going to multiply by itself to be a perfect square. Okay? That's how I can find it if I don't know. Like if I give you the number 88, is it a perfect square or not? 88. We're going to see if you can catch on to what I'm saying. You put on your paper, on your whiteboard, yes or no. Be ready to defend it. Do you think it is or not? And don't look at your paper, your person next to you. I want your opinion, not the person next to you. You what, honey? The question is the number 88 a perfect square? You write yes or you write no on your whiteboard, but you be prepared to defend it. Tell me what you're thinking, is what you're preparing for. I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. Everybody has time to think. Okay, showdown. Okay, most kiddos have written no. I've got a couple that have said yes. All right, so let's go with, because I'm going to check with both. Somebody that says no, that hasn't talked to me, tell me what you think and why. What are you thinking, Miss Alexis?
Because the even numbers don't go into it easily, so the only one that would go into it is like not the even numbers.
Okay, even numbers or odd numbers has nothing to do with whether they're a perfect square or not. So the answer is right, but your train of thinking is wrong. So somebody else talk to me that hasn't already talked to me today. Brian.
Because 8 times 8 is 64, and 9 times 9 is 81, and 10 times 10 is 100. So 88 isn't in there.
You're absolutely correct, Brian, and great reasoning. That's why. So if you thought it was, do you see why it is not? Okay? Do you see why, Alexis?
Yeah.
All right? That's what we got to make sure, okay? Good job, Brian.
Good job, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, let's find out. Oh, we're just going to find the power. Find the power of 6 cubed. When it says find the value of the power, that means to solve it. Find the value means solve. Okay? Yeah, you can use your calculator. You sure can. But what are you going to do to show me that you know what you're doing? You're going to expand it, just like this. And then you're going to use the calculator. And go ahead and do 3, 4, and 5, please. Because I'm going to come around, and Mrs. Frazier, I think, is going to come around, and we're going to look and see if you got it right. And if you just like multiplying it out by hand, that's fine, but then check it with that calculator. Okay, if you would prefer to just do it and then check it, that's fine. The more we do it, the stronger our multiplication skills become. Are they looking good, Mrs. Frazier?
They are looking good.
They are looking good from what I'm seeing. I like it. what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing this. And I'm seeing this. And I'm seeing. And I'm also seeing the answer there. That's what I saw when I walked around. And from what I can tell, you all got it. You're rocking it. We're kicking math butt. Determine if 7, 8, and 9 are perfect squares. Determine, and all you have to say, it doesn't say you have to prove it. So you can just say yes, or you can say no. Good. So write the answer on your paper. Good. Good. There you go. Okay. It may be a good idea that you get in the habit when you say yes or no to go ahead and show the proof, because that makes you really think about it. It may be a good habit to get into, so you know you're not guessing. All right. I've walked around. Mrs. Frazier's walking around. Is 25 a perfect square, class?
Yes.
How do you know it?
25.
Is 2 a perfect square?
No.
No. Why not?
Nothing can go 1 times 2 times 2 is 4.
Right. Good. What about the number 66?
No.
No. Why not?
Nothing itself can go into it.
Okay, hang on a minute. I got too much yelling here. Why not on 66? Why not? Somebody that I haven't talked to. Isaiah.
Nothing itself can go into it.
Okay. Because the closest we would get would be our 8 times 8, right? And that would be 64. And we know 9 times 9 is 81. So that proves my no. Okay? How's it feel? Fist of 5. How does it feel to you? Sweet. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Show me what you know. You have 25 minutes to do this homework. This is the way I like to do it. Okay?
Can we use our calculator?
Now, you can, but what do you have to do?
Show your work.
Show the work. Show what you're doing. Okay.